Well, hello, gang. It's a pleasure to have you with us again on the Ministry Show, and welcome to this episode, which we're going to be talking about one of the most important things ever, and that is time, and particularly how to monitor our time so that we're making the best use of it and investing it versus just spending it. And time is commodity to those who simply let it pass, but it's a great lever to those who utilize it well. And some of us are already doing that. I know and understand that. But others of us need to shift our thinking and really understand that we're not just trying to get through the day or get through the week or through the month, but we're trying to get something from the day, something from that week, something from that month. It's the difference between spending and investing time. The bottom line when it comes to time is this: time is more valuable than money by quite a bit. We could have started this whole year with how we use our time. I'm kind of glad it's coming about in the middle because we've gone through these different habits. The last habit is monitoring. And one of those things that if we don't monitor it well, it will just slip through our fingers like sand. It is the lowest common denominator in life. Everybody on the planet, time passes for us at the same pace. There's nobody that gets 26 hours in a day, or nobody that gets, 67 seconds in a minute. It's very imperative that we in ministry utilize our time to its greatest effectiveness. Time is a finite thing, and it's also the great equalizer. And so I like to think of time in two different ways. One of them is we have incremental time. That's that 60 seconds a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, so on and so forth. So that's the incremental time. That's the same for all of us. But what we don't know about time is the longevity piece of time, which is how long are we going to be on the planet? Well, I don't know when God's going to call me out of this planet into heaven, but what we're talking about is not longevity here, but how do I utilize that incremental time, which is the biggest differentiator that determines your future and everybody else's for that matter. When it comes to monitoring our time, many of us simply either forget or have never learned how or really don't monitor our time well. And it's super important because our personal productivity equals how we monitor our time, and in particular, how we monitor our time well. I often equate, even though time is more valuable than money, they're a little bit the same in this regard. I can spend money just like I can spend time, and I get something from it, but it's only temporary. Or I can invest money, and then that compiles and brings a return, and then it compiles more and brings a return, and then compiles more and brings a return. Well, our time is very similar to our money in terms of investment or spending.
Can you give an example of that, Chris, on the difference between investing versus spending time?
Yeah, well, I'll do my best. And to start off with, for sure, we need to do both.
Right.
We can't just only invest money, because if all we do is invest money, it's like, where's my rent or mortgage going?
Right.
How am I going to eat? What am I going to do for fun? Mm-hmm. But those things tend to be temporary. So the things that I spend time on or the things that I spend money on give temporary relief, temporary fulfillment, a temporary pleasure or whatever. Well, time's the same way. I can invest my time in some entertainment, which is great. Going to a movie, going to a baseball game, going to, whatever we do for entertainment, the arts or whatever. And it feels great, but it's temporary.
Right.
Whereas if I'm investing my time versus spending it, I might invest my time in learning to play the piano, because then that's long term. Well, I wouldn't do that, but somebody with any musical talent might do that. And so basically investing either brings a loss or a return in our finances. Well, the same thing's true in our time. And we all can probably think of people that we've invested our time in that haven't brought a return, and we think it's a waste. Well, it's not necessarily a waste, because we learned something. We learned who to invest our time in. Spending brings a value. We get something for our time, but again, it's temporary. But when we invest in our ministry, we invest in people, it brings equity. In other words, we get a lot more value, but it comes to us later on. It's not an immediate gain. It's a long-term gain. When I spend, I consume it, it's gone. When I invest, it brings a return. And that compiles, brings another return. That compiles, brings another return. It gives meaning to the 30, 60, 90-fold harvest that the scriptures talked about. Well, it might be 30 to start with, but if you leave it alone, it might be 60. If you leave it alone, it brings 90. Investments tend to compile, and spending tends to be consumed. That's a long explanation,
That's
Pam,
good.
but I hope it's
Really good,
meaningful
yeah.
to you. One thing to consider for you and for me as it relates to time is understanding that time is not a commodity. If we treat it as a commodity, then we're going to think it's going to come, there's going to be plenty of it for forever. But we all know that that's not true. There's various examples. Time only seems like it's always available. I'm 55, so I've had 55 years of life. And if I look at my past, I go, well, time's always available, at least 55 years of it. Well, that's not really true because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Think of the last week of the year. What do you reflect upon? What do you think about? And all of a sudden, golly, time is short. Think of doing your taxes in the inevitable April 15th. Mm-hmm. Think of the last day before vacation. How much work do you get done the last day before vacation?
Right.
Or a specific deadline. Or for moms and dads when little Johnny goes to kindergarten. Oh my gosh, that's a passage of time. You can't get those toddler years back. Or a teenager graduating from high school. It's like, oh my gosh, we can't get that time back. The wedding day, think of your last week for those of you that are married, your last week of being single. Don't think about it anymore. That's enough. But anyway, the point being this, if we think of time as a commodity, we think it's always going to be available and we're always going to have enough of it. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. The time that we just spent talking is gone. Right. The time you just spent listening is gone. The time that we invest in whatever it might be, it's gone. We cannot get it back. And so time is not a commodity. It is extremely valuable.
Yeah, and before we determine how to invest time, we need to know how we're spending our own time.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Pam, because if we don't know how we're utilizing time, the very best way to start is just to do a quick time study. Well, maybe not quick, over a week or two. Know first how you're utilizing your time currently. And I know Peter Drucker in the Effective Executive book that he wrote recommends that if you're at the executive level of leadership, and I would say leadership really at any level, you should do a time study twice a year. So a very easy way to do it is just go on Google and put in personal time study, and you'll get sheets and sheets and sheets. Pick out the sheet that you want, print it off. Most of them are in increments of 10 minutes, and then you just jot down, what did I do the last 10 minutes? What did I do the last 10 minutes? Now, you might think that that's difficult to do. Well, it takes all of 2 seconds to write down what I did the last 10 minutes. I was on a bio break. I made the coffee. I was working on a project. I was creating a message. I was recruiting a volunteer, whatever it might be. And then you'll be able to determine with accuracy how you're currently utilizing time, and you'll be able to match that up with how you want to use time.
Right. You did that with me when I met with you, months ago, last year. You said you wanted me to write down how I spent every 10 minutes. And I thought, oh my gosh, but it was such a good reflection for me. And and that's when I went back and going for another degree because of it.
There you go. Well, So you determine how you're utilizing your time didn't match completely with your goals. Right. And then all of a sudden now you're spending more time on your own education. I hope you're not too mad at me for that.
Depends on the day.
Free related a story to one of our business owners here at Church Community Builder. And we tell the people that story.
Yeah, I love it. So Free is one of the owners of Church Community Builder. And it really impacted me because he has this jar of marbles. He's counted out the number of weeks left if he were to live to the age of 75. And every Sunday, he takes a marble out of that jar and he just holds on to it and he reflects on the week before. So how did he invest his time? Did he invest in people? Did he make a difference? How did he impact people's lives? And then he throws that marble away. First time, he only shared it with us once, but I'm telling you, I got tears in my eyes because when you think about a marble going into the garbage can, you never get that back.
Oh, man.
And so it's a great reminder.
Yeah, what a great word picture for, first of all, we don't get it back.
Right.
But then the other piece of it is he doesn't know how many weeks he's going to have to do that.
It's true.
I know he based it on 75 years of life, but he might have to add more marbles.
Sure.
Or there could be some marbles left over, but what a powerful thing that'll be at his funeral.
Yeah, for sure.
So as we've already mentioned, successful time management begins with doing your own personal time study. You don't need to share it with anybody. You can do it as precisely as you want or as loosely as you want. But the main thing is get an idea more accurately than what you currently have of how you're currently utilizing your time. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I've never done a time study where I haven't been surprised. Good surprises and kind of bad surprises. Every time I've ever done it, I've adjusted my utilization of time and tried to shift from spending time to investing time. And, that's really where some coaching comes into play. Man, we help with that. And I can't tell you the number of pastors and church leaders I've been honored to coach over the years that when it comes to time, they have complimented me, the program, and so on of I'm utilizing my time so much better now than I was before. And as I already mentioned, it is the biggest differentiator between success and significance to, trying to barely make it, trying to survive and all that. It's how do I utilize my time? One of the classic pieces of great information on time is something that Stephen Covey did. I can't remember what book. It might have been in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But again, if you just put in Stephen Covey quadrant, you'll get umpteen million of these little grids here that he breaks it down into 4 different categories: urgent, non-urgent, and important, not important, and kind of gives some ideas. So you see that grid there, but you can find more online about that. It's a great place to start if you want to manage, and I like to use the word utilize, because I can't really manage time. I can utilize it well or not utilize it well. When we map our time out, then we can determine how do I want to invest my time so that I get more out of life with family, relational development, either within your family, close friends, others that you might need to develop relationships with, our own creativity. Boy, if you're not putting in time into your schedule to be creative, to actually think creatively about a problem you might have, a set of circumstances that just keeps going, well, you're not going to ever get out of that loop. And so we got to get creative. I think it was Einstein that said something like, it's a bad paraphrase, but it's like the problems that we have today, we can't solve with the same level of thinking we had when we created the problem.
That's good. Yeah.
And so we need some creativity, but we have to have time to be creative.
That's right.
In planning, and of course, even taking care of our own health. It takes time. So we can become much better at the utilization of time if we have an action plan, a game plan in order to fulfill that. Here's my best suggestion. Do the time study over 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Well, any 1 week of our life can be a little bit topsy-turvy. The week before Easter, probably don't want to do a time study. And you don't want to do a time study when you're going on vacation, but during the work week, just write down, be honest about how am I spending my time, and then adjust accordingly. Match that with what you want in life, and then you can go, oh, well, how I'm spending my time is bringing about what I want in my life, or these things are actually either a deterrent or they're not adding value to what I want or need in my life. I think I might have mentioned that Peter Drucker, matter of fact, I know I did, but it's worth repeating. Peter Drucker says, if you're in leadership, you should do a time study twice a year.
I'm due for another one then, I guess.
Yeah. Time is either your best friend or an enemy that you just really don't want to tangle with. But the great thing about the human condition is we get to determine how we utilize our time. A lion, a tiger, a bear, a rat, they don't get to determine how they spend their time. They're just, going about the instincts that they have. Human beings, we have a mind, we can think, we can be creative, and we can determine how we utilize our time to get the results that we want. I encourage you to do that time study and then pair that up, match that up with what do I want in life and are they congruent?
Yeah, love it. That's good, Chris. Well, next week we're going to be talking about the payoff of the 5 habits of leadership that we've covered so far. And I'm really excited about this upcoming show. It's going to be great, good information, and it's always good to hear the payoff for the work we do, right?
The big payoff.
The big
That's
payoff.
Always nice.
Yes.
And then you can see our sponsors there. I want to do a shout out to the You Only Die Once course since we're talking about time. And of course, none of us knows how long we're going to be on the planet. That's where that You Only Die Once course comes in. I'm telling you, it's helped me and Kathy in our journey, especially at our age and things like that. Man, it's just been super, super helpful, not only for us personally, but our children. They're super thankful about it. Go to yodo.com. You Only Die Once, and look at that course, see if it's something that you feel like would minister to not everybody in your congregation, but certainly some people. And then, of course, our Build Gathering is coming up. As it gets closer, I get more excited about these top-tier professionals in almost every category of a church, from children's and youth ministries to finances to church planting to a small group ministry to worship. We've got top level, really national experts speaking on each one of these categories, helping you in your ministry to set forth a game plan so you can build not only a solid ministry, but a thriving ministry. Go to buildgathering.com and check that out. And we hope to see you just outside of Louisville in November. I hope we've utilized our time well during this show, that there's been a comment, maybe a question or a statement that's helped you, that you can implement something or think deeper about something and adjust how you're utilizing time so that your ministry can thrive. So until next week, both Pam and I say God bless you. Have a great week.